All right. Well, hopefully you guys all had a chance to get done with your first two videos, the original drawing. You should have, at this point, from the first two videos, your basic wall assembly, which has your bottom plate, your top plate, and all of your studs. They're 2 inches apart from one side to one side. So like the right side to right side of every single one is 2 inches apart, or you can say center to center is also 2 inches apart, or left side to left side is 2 inches apart. Any way you look at it. The spacing between them in the middle, though, is going to be less than 2 inches because the 2 inches is from right side to right side, not from center. The middle of one to the middle of the other, in the sense that it's in a gap. It's from the actual center of the member, if we look at it this way, the center of that member to the center of that member. Meaning like here to here. All right. So if you have all the practice lines on the side, that's great. If not, it's not going to be a big deal for this activity. You may be using your practice sheet. I had some of you guys redo this. This may not be there. That's fine. You need to have your title box, however, on a side because we're going to be filling that in today. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to start adding a header and a door to this. There's different places we can put these things. I think that for the sake of this drawing, I really want to put my door right here between these studs, and I'm going to put a window in between this this stud setup right here, this opening. So the way that we do that, typically our doors need to be with a gap of 6 foot 8 inches. Unfortunately, with this scale, we don't have enough height to actually do that. When we do our final drawing, we will draw to scale later on. This is just the practice one we're doing now. We will end up drawing to scale so that the door opening actually meets the required code heights, and so will our window and stuff over here. But for now, we're just going to kind of practice drawing these things with a short size, and I'm just going to kind of mix stuff up as we go as far as dimensions to practice the drawing. So what I want you guys to do is come down an inch from the inside of the top plate and put a mark. And then we're going to come all the way over. We're going to skip one stud, and we're going to come over to the next stud, and we're going to accurately put an inch mark there as well. Okay, from that, I can connect the two dots. And then I noticed that my paper has a little lip here, so I definitely don't want to drag my pencil in a way that I'm going to catch that lip. I'm going to pull away from it. This is going to become the top of my header. Now, before I just start erasing everything that I don't need, I'm going to finish drawing the header. This header needs to be to a certain size. Now, the minimum header size in construction is going to be 4x6. And our scale earlier, we said that 1/8 is equal to 1 inch. Okay? 1 inch equals 1/8 on this piece of paper. So what that tells us is if a 4x6 in dimensional size is a 1/2 inch less in either size, like a 2x4, this is 3.5 by 5 1/2, which means we're not going to actually see from this perspective the 3.5 dimension of this, but we will see the 5.5 dimension. So 5.5 inches means we need 5.5 eighths. Okay, so 5/8 is the same as 10/16, and then we need another 1/2 of an eighth. So that's 11/16. So I'm going to draw down from here 11/16. I can easily find the 3/4 mark, which is 12/16. And I'm just going to subtract 1 from there. That's my 11. Again, here's my 11. And I can trace those two dots and follow along. Now, if you have the kits that are for the building kit, you should have some larger pieces of wood in there in addition to the 2x4 pieces. So this is going to represent your 3.5 2x4. These are going to represent the larger pieces here are going to represent your 2x6. You can also go back and just measure them if you're unsure of where your 11/16 is. They should be accurately cut to 11/16 to verify you're measuring correctly. Okay. Now, obviously, this piece of wood is not going to go all the way through the door, and it's not going to go through the header. So I need to erase these lines all the way down, which is one of the reasons I like to have this external eraser. So I cannot pull back on this paper without damaging it, so I need to make sure I move away from the seam. And then I'm just going to slowly work this line gone all the way down so that I actually have a doorway, because we wouldn't frame that in. Okay. So here we have a doorway now that has a header. I've got a cripple, and I need to add some jack studs because right now there's nothing that's stopping this big piece of wood, this header, from falling down. So we need to put a jack stud or a tremor stud, depending on where you are and what you call it. We have different names for it on the East Coast versus the West Coast because people on the East Coast are just silly. And we need to add those in. So we're going to add in, I'm going to put in a 3/16 mark here at the bottom. And I'm going to put a 3/16 mark over here coming towards the inside on the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing all the way at the top, because I do want my header to be fully captured, top and bottom, with the jack and the cripples. So I'm going to put this line in here, stopping at my header, and then starting again at the bottom of it. Then we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, so now I have a doorway that's set up with my 3 cripples at the top. I'm still spaced 16 inches apart, so it's easy to find my nailing inside of a wall. And I've got a doorway. This doorway is open here. When the wall is all done, we'll be able to cut out this little piece of wood right here from the opening and install a door in here. Now we need to do a window. The key with windows, when you make a house, the top of a window is usually, for a visual reason, always going to be the same height as the top of a door. If you go and you stand out in the street and you look at all the houses in your neighborhood as you walk up and down the block, you'll see that the windows on the houses that typically look good or that are designed by architects have the same window height at the top all the way across. So we want this header and this header to be at the same height. If a window all of a sudden is down here and the door is up here and then we got another window somewhere else over here, the house is going to feel like it's really weird and out of balance. It subconsciously just feels strange. So instead of doing anything weird, we're going to go with the convention here and practice what's usually done. And we're going to come down and I'm just going to put an inch here. And again, we're at 11/16. And I'm going to come across here with an inch mark and my 11/16. And now this line should, if everything's been done right on your drawing, you should basically have this lining up with this header here all the way across, okay? So I'm just going to draw this little line here. Okay, so again, now I have a header. This is a very narrow window. We're putting this in between a standard stud cavity, which usually has 14.5 inches in between it. In this case, that's going to be represented in our scaled eighths. But we need to have, again, because this is a header, jack studs, cripples, and all the proper supports. So we're going to start by coming down here to the base. I'm going to add the dimension of a jack stud or a tremor stud. I guess in California, it would make more sense to call them tremors, because when we have tremors, like an earthquake, they stop the house from falling on you or falling apart. They make it a little bit safer for you to go stand in the doorway if the house is violently shaking, which is a good thing. I'm sure you guys have heard that the doorway, to go stand under a doorway, is the safest place to be if you're going to be in your house during an earthquake. You've got all this support here holding up this wood so that it doesn't fall on your head. All right, so I don't need to put a center stud here or a center cripple. That would be kind of too much. But I do need to add a window sill, or it's not a window, it's a really weird, funky, narrow door. It looks like a dog door. So we're going to make this door, or sorry, this window, the equivalent of 3 feet in height. So we got to figure out what 3 feet in height would be. So if I said we have 36 inches, that's 3 feet. And I know that because we have 12 times 3 equals 36 here. And there's 12 inches in a foot. So we have 36 inches, and each inch is equal to 1/8. So I have 36/8 with our scale. So now I just have to convert this to figure out exactly what we need. So how many times does 8 go into 36? Let's take a look at this on a ruler. It might be better for you guys to see it here. Well, we know we have 8/8 in 1 inch, right? So here we have 8 and 8, that's 16. 16 and 16 is 32. That's getting us really close. So we have more than 4 inches. We have 36. We have 32 here. We need 36. So if we have 32, this would be 33, 34, 35, 36. That makes it 4.5 inches. Okay, this equals 4.5. 4.5/8. So I can come over here, and we're going to come down to 4.5. Put a mark. Come over here to 4.5. Put a mark. And then again, I can draw my line all the way across. Now I'm going to need to do a little erasing because this jack stud is going through this bottom piece. I want this to come down the thickness of a 2x4. In this case, we're using 3/16. Then I'm going to need to erase the intersecting line that shouldn't actually be there. Okay. So then we would have this bottom sill of the rough opening. So we have a window sill opening, rough opening, or a sill plate. We have the header, we have our jack studs or our trimmers, and the cripples. We have our king studs now. These studs here, because they're now supporting the trimmers or the jack studs, they become king studs instead of just a standard stud. And then these corner studs, because they're by themselves in full height, are just studs. So go ahead and get to this point. If you need to play and pause the video until you get here, please do so. And then if you have questions, get a hold of me so you can let me know and I can help you out in whatever way you need.